Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you had a great week. And I'm curious, did you think about any of the boundaries that are in your life? Well, this week I decided to look around or just pay a little more attention to all the boundaries that were around us. And these are the things that I heard and saw that came up. So, for instance, we have boundaries with time, right? We have deadlines, we have wake up times, we have bedtimes, we have time that we want to work out, we have time that we want to make sure we're getting outside, we have meal times. All these things are boundaries. Space. There is tons of boundaries around space, and I'm going to get into that a little bit later. I'm going to focus on space and time today for two quick tools that you can think of and visually remember. But other boundaries, before I jump into those, were boundaries with food. Do I have a certain end time when I'm done eating for the day? Do I have a certain amount that I eat at each meal? All of these things are boundaries. Holidays. Holidays are coming up. Do I have a boundary with how many people I'm going to be around? Do I have a boundary about how far I will travel? Again, when we talked about boundaries, the whole reason we want to even dive into this topic is because boundaries really are a blessing. They are here to help us, not hurt us. And when we have boundaries, the result is awesome. We get to feel peaceful. We get to feel calm. We don't have to feel overwhelmed or like we are doing more than we can take in. All right. And so that's the whole goal with a boundary, is really recognizing that it is creating certainty and safety. That's what a boundary does. And when we don't have boundaries, then there's too much uncertainty. It leads to overwhelm, maybe some frustration or some resistance, and ultimately it becomes destructive. Okay, so more boundaries that I saw this week. Screen time, right? We are all very aware that we have a lot of technology in our lives. And so how do we maneuver that, right? We have to lean into it because it's needed right now, but we also have to be aware that when we don't have to be on it, what else could we be doing? And maybe it's about setting a timer, right? Like, I don't like the idea like, oh, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Some people's personalities, they prefer that, right? But some people, maybe it's just, I'm going to scroll for 5 minutes today. I'm going to look in there, or I'm going to set a timer when that timer goes off, things like that. And so it's recognizing what is important to you, what are your needs, and then honing it in so that it works for you, not against you. All right, what else? Classroom boundaries. Oh my gosh, you guys have so many, right? Like, which is good because you have a lot of kids that you need to keep in order. And so right now we have obviously boundaries with face masks and distance away from each other. Those are all boundaries. We have boundaries with how we allow our students to talk to us. We have enforceable statements around when we're willing to grade their homework. I grade a homework up until 5 days after it's due. After that, credit will be reduced to half, or my office hours are from 3 to 4, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Again, you're just creating clarity and information for somebody to be able to make a decision that's going to work for them and work for you as well, because now you've stated it. And lastly, our mind. Oh my gosh, do we have boundaries with our mind? I hope so. We need to, right? Sometimes it feels like it's completely out of control. It's like, how do we wrangle that thing back in? But it really is about telling our thoughts where to go and telling our things, our time. That's really what a boundary is. We're putting limits on things, time, all things above that will help us, not hurt us. And so the two that I wanted to jump into today were going to be about space and time. And I love these because this has just made a huge difference in my life. So the first thing I want you to recognize is this is a container and it's clear and I love it. I just use this to redo my entire pantry, and these are found at the dollar store, so they're wonderful. So if you want to look at this from the sake of a personal little to-do in your kitchen, this is great too. But what I love about this clear container is that it represents a boundary so well. It's clear. So when you are stating a boundary, you need to make sure that you are clear in what you are saying, not only for you to know what your boundary is, but clear so somebody else can receive your boundary, and that there's not a lot of gray, because then that gets confusing. So you want to make sure it's clear. And secondly, you want to make sure it's visible, right? The reason I love that it's clear is because now I can see what I have in there and how much I have left and when it needs to be refilled, etc. But the reason why visibility is so helpful too, like for instance, in a classroom or in a child's bedroom or in a workspace, it's just that it allows you to see what the expectation is or what the need is in that moment, okay? And so 2 things to remember when setting a boundary is you want them to be clear and you want them to be visible. All right. Because why? Because there's so much more freedom. When we have boundaries, we actually give ourselves the gift of freedom because then we can do something within those boundaries. All right. The thing is also to remember about a boundary is that just because you have it in your mind does not mean that everybody understands it in theirs. And so one of the biggest lessons I had to learn is that we all have different boundaries, and that's great. We should. We get to, right? We get to have different boundaries because they're all personalized to us and what's our comfort level. And so I just want to really validate like whatever you are sensing that you might need to set a boundary around, whether that's time, space, conversation, it's your choice. You get to decide what's going to work for you or not, okay? But the job that you have to do is just be clear, consistent, and then make sure that it's visibly known by you following through with that boundary. All right. The other tool that I wanted to give you was all about time. Time is our friend. It's one of the things that we all have the same amount of. Isn't that cool? It's the one thing created equal in this world. We all get 24 hours, and it's up to us how we want to spend it. So what I'm giving you today in the attachment is a time template, and I hope that that is a gift to you. Use it however it feels right for you, but really it's about telling your time where to go. I love that because that's exactly what a boundary is like you're telling the thing, the conversation, the person, what is comfortable for you. So why wouldn't time be in that, right? Time is something that if we don't tell it what to do, like that river, it can become very destructive and we lose it. It just can fly away. And we've all had those days. And just as a note, it's good to have those days, right? That's what weekends are for. Sometimes we just need a day where we just let everything flow and we rest and we give our brain a break from being so intentional. But at the same time, just recognizing that if we feel better when we do know where our time is, there's a way to do that. And so what I've created really for you is a template, and it is really fun. I have given you all sorts of time on this side so that you can visibly see how much you have in front of you. And then I've given you an opportunity to have a little dump list of all the things that are happening in your mind and important to you. And then I've even put on here a spot for a morning ritual and an evening ritual. Again, this is helpful because clarity is power. And when it's visible, then you remember and you're more likely to do it. And when you write something down, we're 90% more likely to accomplish it. And so if you are in a season of your life where you feel like you do want to get a little bit more time for your day, right? Tasks done in your day for the time that you have, then this will be helpful for you. And I put it in 30-minute chunks. And the reason I've done that is because it's awesome in 30-minute chunks, because this is why. In our minds, we tend to think things are way bigger than they really are. And so it's like, oh, I got to fold the laundry. I've used that example before. Oh, I have to, finish the end of the month report. And it just feels like a lot. Or I have to do the lesson plan. Or I have to do meal prep planning for the week. And it just feels like that is a big task. And really, if we would just hunker down and do it, it probably takes 15 to 20 minutes, really a focused time. And so if we can just jot that down in one of those 30-minute slots, it's amazing what we can accomplish in just chunking down our time throughout the day. And when we tell it where to go, it's all on things that are important to us, that are going to give us the feelings that we want. And that's why, again, that boundary is a blessing, because we are telling that time where to go and what to do. And then it's going to work for us, not against us. All right. I hope this mindset shift was a gift. This was a little bit longer one than last week's, but I think I made up. Last week was a little shorter. So I think it all balances out. But I hope that this was helpful for you. And if you have any questions, please reach out. Let me know. I love comments and I love what is helpful to you. So please let me know. I tend to kind of wait for a prompt throughout the week on what to talk about. And if you would like to prompt me ahead of time, that is great. And I love when you also give me ideas about other things to speak of. So this week, a comment came in that was like, boundaries are also changeable. And so, before we end, just recognize boundaries change within the seasons of life that we're in. And so we're always maneuvering them. And sometimes it's going to feel like it has to be a really strong boundary. And other times it's going to feel like it can be a little bit looser boundary. And so I just want you to, again, remember you want to be clear with your boundaries and keep them visible so you remember and those around you remember what's important to you. I hope this mindset shift was a gift. Have a great day. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for all of you and for all of you that tune in.